Hey, this is Math 6, Unit 3, Lesson 4 on converting units. Alright, so we began today with first of our number talk here. It just says let's find these values mentally. And so we have 1/4 of 32, 3/4 of 32. So we can see some similarities there between these two problems, right? Because we have a fourth and 3/4, so something's going to be in common there. Then we do 3/8 of 32. So we're keeping the 32, the 3, but we're increasing that number there. Then we have the 3/8, so those match, and 64, which looks like double that. So let's do some mental math here and see what you might come up with. So 1/4, that's going to be of 32. It's like doing 32 in a sense divided by 4, or 1/4 of 32, which is really what it is. That's going to get you to 8. No problem there. I'm okay with that part being like 32 over 4 is 8, because 8 times 4 is 32. So I could use that information there to help me over here, because knowing that this part is already going to be 8, I'm thinking in my head, what is 8 times 3? Sorry, 8 times 3, which would be 24. Okay? So that's where I get so far. So I know I'm at 24 at that point there. Now, doing the same idea, if this 32 divided by 4 is 8, then 32 divided by 8 is 4. And so I kind of mentally go, if that's 4, then I'm left with 4 times 3, which is 12. Right, we're looking so far. And now if 3/8 of 32 is 12, then 3/8 of double that, I can double this same thing, becomes 24 as well. Okay, so just kind of how I started off there, knowing that math fact allowed me to get there and do some other little math manipulation in my head there to get the other ones. But let's take a look at our lesson today on converting units. Okay, begin first of all with a road trip, 4-2. It says Elena and her mom are on a road trip outside the United States, and Elena sees this road sign, maximum 80. Elena's mom is driving 75 miles per hour. Alright, so that's her speed, is 75 miles per hour when she gets pulled over for speeding. Going a little bit too fast there. The officer explains that 8 kilometers is approximately 5 miles. So if we're thinking about kilometers and miles here, okay, we could think about, for this one, let's try a little double number line. We haven't used them for a while. If I have kilometers and I have miles, like so, what we're saying is that 8 kilometers is the same as 5 miles. Okay? So, how many kilometers are in 1 mile? Well, to find that out, we would make a spot here for the 1. So here's our 1 mile. And to go from 1 to 5 is multiplying by the reciprocal, 1/5. So using a double number line, to go from 8 to this spot here is also multiplying by 1/5. So 1/5 times 8 is 8/5. Okay? So in terms of how many kilometers are a mile, there are 8/5 of a kilometer in a mile. 8/5 can be written also as 5 goes in 8 one time, with 3 left over, so 1 3/5. If you want to turn 3/5 into a decimal, you certainly could. When you're looking at fifths, everything is like 0.2, so we have 2, 4, 6. So we would say it's 1.6 kilometers. So there's about 1.6 kilometers in 1 mile on our double number line there. How many miles are in 1 kilometer? Alright, so we have to think back to what we did before, knowing that a kilometer is a larger measurement than a mile, right? If I knew that if a kilometer is going to be 1, if I have 1 over here, because because mile is a smaller measurement than kilometer, if my kilometer value is 1, then this mile number has to be greater than 1. It's going to be bigger than 1 because miles are smaller than kilometers. So looking at that, then I can still go here and say, well, this is 1.6, we said 1.6, which means I still have to come over here to go to 1 on the kilometer side. So that's my 1. So to go to 8 to 1 is times 1/8. So we do 5 over here times 1/8. We would get 5 over 8, or 5/8 here. Alright, so, what was I saying a second ago? 5/8 should be less than, oh my goodness, sorry. So how many miles are in 1 kilometer? We would say 5/8 of a mile are in a kilometer. So kilometers are greater, Yeah, because that's going to be 1. It's equal to, so it's going to equal to be less than 5/8 of a mile or in a kilometer. So yeah, so we're okay. So 5/8 of a mile are in 1 kilometer. Because it's less than, that means it's equal to. So yeah, we're good. If the speed limit is 80 kilometers per hour and Elena's mom was driving 75 miles per hour, and was she speeding? So she's going 80 kilometers per hour, and sorry, speed limit's 80 kilometers, she's going 75. So let's just take a look here. So if we're going 80 kilometers per hour, and I want to consider this here, 75, think of it this way. Here's our miles per hour, and here's kilometers. So she's doing 75. We want to decide how many kilometers per hour it is if you're doing 75 miles per hour. Okay, so let's get this here. We know that to go 1 mile per hour is the same as 8/5 kilometers per hour. We found that out here. So 1 mile per hour is 8/5. So working back the other way, we're going to multiply 75 times 8/5 to find out how many kilometers per hour she's going. So this reduces to 1 and to 15. So I end up with 15 times 8, and 15 times 8 is going to be 120. So it tells me she's going 120 kilometers per hour at that point. So how much was she speeding by? If the speed limit is 80, we do 120 minus 80 to say she was going 4 kilometers per hour, or 40, sorry, kilometers per hour too fast. So she definitely was speeding because the speed limit was 80 and she was doing 120. Alright, sorry about that. I was got a little tied up there, my words a little bit today. Alright, 4.3. Veterinary weights. It says a veterinarian uses weights in kilograms to figure out what dosages of medicines to prescribe for animals. For every 10 kilograms, there are 22 pounds. So if we were to kind of mark this out as a table, for example, we could make a pounds, and we can make a kilograms, make a table, and we know that there are, oops, pull it down, sorry about that. We know that there are 22 pounds and 10 kilograms. We're going to calculate some animal weights and explain how it works. So let's do the Labrador first of all. So our Labrador weighs in at 88 pounds. Alright, so before I get to 88 pounds, I think let's do this back up real quick here before I jot this down. Well, yeah. And now let's find how many pounds are in a kilogram. So if I'm going to turn pounds into a 1, for example, then this would be times 1 over 22. So this becomes 10 over 22, which reduces to 5/11. So 1 pound is the same as 5/11. Good with that? Okay. Or 10 over 22. Either one works there. And in terms of how much 1 kilogram is, right? So if I want to have 1 kilogram, that's times 1/10. So 1 kilogram in pounds becomes 22 over 10, or 11 over 5, however you want to look at that one. Okay, so I just wanted to turn my pounds into a 1 and kilograms into 1 to see what I'm working with here in terms of a unit rate for pounds. So 1 pound equals that, 1 kilogram equals that. So back to my Labrador here. So our Labrador that said was 88 pounds. So let's use our 1, which means we're going to multiply by 88. So I'm going to keep the, I can do 5 and 11. So either one, I'm going to do 88 times 5 over 11. And 11 goes into 88 8 times. So I can reduce there. So I'm left with 8 times 5 is 40. So if the Labrador weighs 88 pounds, I multiply the 88 by 5 over, 88 times 5 over 11, right here, and we get there. So that works because 1 times 88 gets me there, so I take this number here and multiply it also by 88. So times 88 times 88. On the next page, it asks us, or tells us, sorry, that a beagle weighs 33 pounds. So we're going to do the same idea. To go from 1 to 33, that's going to be done by multiplying by 33, right? So on this side, we'll do from the same row, 5/11 times 33. So we have 33 times 5 over 11, and 11 goes into 33 three times, so 3 times 5 is 15. And that's what we have there. In the last one, it says you have Bella the Chihuahua, which is weighing at 5.5 pounds. So 5.5 pounds, depends on how you want to write that. I could leave it at 5.5. Probably better to go 10 plus 1 is 11. So this is really 11 over 2. So again, to go from here to here, to go from 1 to 11 over 2 is multiplying by 11 over 2. So we're going to take this number, 5 over 11, and multiply by 11 over 2. Right? And so those cancel, and you're left with 5 over 2, which is the same as 2.5 pounds. Or 2.5 kilograms, sorry. Alright? So that's the idea with those ones there. Now, in the last question, which is on the next page still, I was looking here at the beagle for 33, Chihuahua 5.5. Number 2 says, a certain medication only be given to animals over 25 kilograms. So how much is that in pounds? So what's asking us to do here is it's saying, well, go back to your chart. Now we're going to tell you that you know something is 25 kilograms. Can you go the other way? And the answer is, of course we can. We can go the other way. And we do that by looking at, well, I want to get this number. If this one's a 1, let's look at this one here. I'll kind of line this up here. I'm going to go from the 1 to 25, which is multiplied by 25. So we'll take this number here, 22 over 10, and multiply it by 25 as well. When we do that, we can reduce. 5 goes in here 2 times, 5 goes in there 5 times. So I'm left with 5 times 22. Oh well, let's finish this up here. 22 over 2, I can reduce this to 11, right? 22, 2 goes in here 1 time, 2 goes in here 11 times. So now I have 11 times 5 left over. And so 55 kilograms is the same as 25 kilograms, sorry, is the same as 55 pounds. Okay, so a lot of conversions there, a lot of multiplying this direction here to make that work. It's good to start with your unit values for pounds and kilograms and then use that number throughout. All works out just fine. All right, let's take a look at activity number 4, which is one that you may have done, may not have done. It's an optional activity in class, so it depends on what your teacher wanted to do today. Cooking with a tablespoon. It says Diego's trying to follow a recipe, but he cannot find any measuring cups. He only has a tablespoon. In the cookbook it says that 1 cup equals 16 tablespoons. Okay, so how can he use a tablespoon to measure out the ingredients? Well, he has a half of a cup. Half of a cup. So what do we know? We know this. We know that 1 cup is the same as 16 tablespoons. We know that he has half of a cup. To go from 1 to a half is multiplied by a half. So half of 16 is what? It's going to be 8 tablespoons. Over here, again, we know our basics. We know that 1 cup is the same as 16 tablespoons. He has needs 1 1/4 cup of oatmeal. So to go from 1 to 1 1/4 is multiplying by 1 1/4. That can also be written as 5/4, right? 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So 16 times 5/4, it's 5/4 times 16. We can reduce here on the diagonal. So 1 and 4, and 5 times 4 is 20. Same idea here. We have our basic ratio, 1 to 16. We have 2 3/4 cups of flour. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11 over 4. So to go from here to here, it's 11 over 4. So we'll multiply this. 11 over 4 times 16. And again, that reduces to 1 over 4. 1 and 4. 11 times 4 is 44. So we have 8 tablespoons, 20 tablespoons, and 44 tablespoons there. Diego also adds the following ingredients. How many cups of each did he use? So 28 tablespoons of sugar. Using our same ratio, we know that 1 cup is 16 tablespoons. In this case here, it says that he wants to have 28 tablespoons. So we're finding out that part there. I don't really see an easy relationship between 16 and 28, but what I do know when I think about 28, what do I think about? I think that this is 4 times 7 is 28. And the reason I like thinking about 4 times 7 is 28 is because I also know that 4 times 4 is 16. So, because they both have the 4 in common, if I divide this by 4, or multiply by 1/4, that can tell me what 4 tablespoons of sugar are going to be like. And multiply this side also by 1/4, and so we have over here 1/4 is an equivalent ratio. 1/4 to 4 is the equivalent ratio to 1 to 16. And I like that because I can go back this way and say 4 times 7 is 28. So 1/4 times 7 is 7 over 4, or 1 3/4. However you want to write that out there. Right? So yeah, I could write 7 1/4, or 3 1/4 is how many cups would fit right there. Last one on this one here, we again use our 1 and our 16. We know we have 6 tablespoons of cocoa powder. Now again, 1 to 16, not one that I can see how that works out too well, but I know that I can get 16 to a 2 by multiplying by 1/8, because 16 times an 8 becomes 2. Alright, so let's go ahead and then multiply the 1 by 1/8. So you have 1/8 here. And we can go back up the table by multiplying by 2 times what? Times 3. And over here, 1/8 times 3 becomes 3 over 8. Alright, so we'd have 3/8 cups of cocoa powder is the same as 6 tablespoons. Alright, so just in summary here, when we measure something in 2 different units, the measurements form an equivalent ratio. Okay, just because we're in 2 different units, we can get an equivalent ratio. We can reason with these equivalent ratios to convert measurements from one unit to another. So to give you some examples, you can cut off hair in inches, we can convert that to centimeters, not a problem there using equivalent ratios. So here's a double number line that shows the relationship between inches and centimeters, and we can use this ratio that goes all the way through to see what's the difference between 20 and how does it relate to 100, and you can see how the relationship works there. Double number line, or you can do it on a table and it's the same information just shown a different way. Alright, that's it for today's lesson. I'm going to pause there and give you a few moments to work on your homework, and we'll come back together and check it in a moment. Alright, so here's our homework. We have Praya's family exchanged $250 for 4,250 pesos. Praya bought a sweater for 510 pesos. How many dollars did the sweater cost? So, she took her dollars and she turned them into pesos, and then she bought something with pesos, and she's wondering how many dollars was that actually going to be. Okay, so to do that here, we went through a series of conversions, right? So go from 250 to 25 is going to be multiplying by 1/10. So let's do the same thing in this row here. Let's multiply this by 1/10. So 4250 times 1/10 becomes 425. To go from 25 to 1, we multiply by 1 over 25. So 425 times 1/25 is actually equal to 17. To go from 1 to 3, we multiply by 3. So go to this space, we're going to do 17 times 3, which is 51. And then I can look at this one and go 51 times 10, get you 510. So 3 times 10 is equal to 30. So there's lots of little steps along the way, but because they gave us one equivalent ratio to start with, we could work all the way down and find this last one right there. Number 2. It says there are 3,785 milliliters in 1 gallon, 4 quarts in 1 gallon. For each question, explain, show your reasoning. Here we go. So we have milliliters, we have gallons, and we have quarts. That's the things we're working with here. So we know that there are 3,785 milliliters in 1 gallon. We also know that there are 4 quarts in 1 gallon, which means that there are 3,785 milliliters in 4 quarts as well. So how many milliliters are in 3 gallons? So if that's 3, to go from 1 to 3 is times 3. So we would do 3,785 times 3. And when I do that, I end up with 11,355. I could put that here in the table as well. How many milliliters are in 1 quart? Well, this is 4 quarts, have that many right there. So if I want this to be 1 quart, I can make it a table over here, another row on my table. To make this 1 quart, that's times 1 over 4. So we would take this number and multiply it by 1/4, or 3,785 times 1/4. And 3,785 times 1/4 is equal to 946.25. Alright, and that's what I got there. My answer key in my book had a different number there. I checked it a couple times and I kept getting the same thing, and that makes the most sense because 9 times 4 is 36, so that gets me pretty close right there. I'm pretty sure that's right. So there we go, 946. Lynn knows that there are 4 quarts in a gallon. She wants to convert 6 quarts to gallons, but cannot decide if she should multiply 6 by 4 or divide 6 by 4 to find her answer. What should she do? Alright, so we know that there are 4 quarts. I'm going to make a little small space here. There are 4 quarts in 1 gallon, right? Here's my quarts, here's my gallon. She's trying to figure out if she has 6 quarts, how many gallons that's going to be. So how does she convert it over there? Is it going to be multiply 6 by 4 or divide 6 by 4 to get here? Well, think about this. To go from 4 to here, to make this into, we're going to do a times 1/4. If I want to go 1 quart, we do times 1/4. So this becomes 6 divided by 4, which makes the most sense there. Alright, because we want to do 1 quart, we would say it's 6/4. So that's how you find out what's in there. Okay. So Tyler has a baseball bat that weighs 20 ounces. Great, 20 ounces. Find the weight in kilograms and in grams. And we know that 1 kilogram is 35 ounces. So here's our ounces, here's our kilograms. We know that 35 ounces is 1 kilogram. That's great news. And we want to figure out for a 28 ounce bat how much it is in kilograms and then in grams. So let's take a look here. I like that it's a 35, and the reason I like that it's 35 is I can think about 7 times 5 is 35. And when I think about 28, that's 7 times 4, right? So let me get this to a number I can work with, like 7. So to get 35 to 7, I'm going to multiply by what? 1/5. Because 35 divided by 5 is 7. So I multiply this by 1/5. So I know that 7 ounces is the same as 1/5 of a kilogram. So now to go 7 to 28, it's times 4. And 1/5 times 4 is 4/5. So how many kilograms are in a 28 ounce bat? 4/5. Now 4/5 is the same as 0.8. Okay? So 0.8 kilograms is how much is in that bat there. To find out how much that is in grams, I'm going to multiply that by 1,000, because 1,000 grams are in 1 kilogram. So 0.8 times 1,000 is going to get you 800 grams. Okay? So that's the idea for that one right there. And not last one, we're going to see if measurements for length, volume, or weight for these next items. Length, volume, or weight. Here we go. So we have length, we have volume, and we have weight. A mile is a length. Cup is a volume. Pound is a weight. Centimeter is a length. Liter is a volume. Gram is a weight. Pint is a volume. Yard is a length. Kilogram is a weight. Teaspoon is a volume. And milliliter is a volume. All right, our next one. Recipe of trail mix calls for almonds, 7 ounces. Raisins, 5 ounces. Almonds, raisins are the only ingredients. How many ounces would there be in a 1 pound bag of trail mix? Okay, so we have 7 ounces of almonds and 5 ounces of raisins, which is a total of 12 ounces. Helps to know that there are in 1 pound is 16 ounces. Okay, helpful to know that there. So I want to find out how many almonds and raisins, or in this case almonds, are in a 16-ounce thing. So I'm going to have to work back to 16. So I think about 4 times 3, and I think about 4 times 4, and I see they both have that common multiple of 4 in it. So let's do 12 times 1/4. 12 times a third. I want to end up with 4 on the bottom here, because 12 times a third gives me 4. I like the 4 because that's what I had in common here. So now 4 times 4 is 16, right? So that was getting to 1/3 to get down to this row here. So to get over here for the almonds, we do 7 times 1/3, just like I did here. That becomes 7/3, and then move back up here, we multiply that by 4, and so we end up with 28/3, right? Because it's 7/3 times 4 equals 28/3 for the almonds. Now 3 goes into that 9 times with 1 left over, so you can say 9 1/3 as well. So it'd be 9 1/3 ounces of almonds are in a 1 pound bag of trail mix. The information they didn't give you was to know that 16 ounces equals 1 pound. So that's something to just hope you know that. Okay. And our last one, number 7. An ant can travel at a constant speed of 980 inches every 5 minutes. So we have inches, and we have minutes, and we're doing 980 for every 5. How far does it travel in 1 minute? So to go 1 minute, we multiply by 1/5. So 980 times 1/5. 5 goes to 980, 196 times. So we can go 196 inches. At this rate, how far can it go in 7 minutes? We take 196, multiply it by 7, because it does that in 1 minute. We'll do it 7 times, and we end up with 1,372 inches. And that is it for today's homework. Tonight for me, been a long day, so we will see you next time. Bye.